Have you ever worked somewhere that felt like family? Where you gave everything, sacrificed everything, only to discover you were nothing more than a disposable employee? My name is Hira, and this is the story of how the company that destroyed me became mine, how the bosses who humiliated me ended up working for me, how I went from being kicked out with nothing to owning everything. It was January 2018. I was 23 years old, fresh out of my MBA from IBA Karachi, young, ambitious, full of dreams. I'd landed my dream job at Meridian Textiles, one of Pakistan's leading textile export companies based in Karachi. I started as a junior marketing executive on January 15, 2018. The salary wasn't great, just 45,000 rupees a month, but I didn't care. I was working for a prestigious company, learning from experienced professionals, building my career. The company was run by 3 partners: Mr. Tariq Malik, the CEO, who'd founded the company in 2005. His wife, Mrs. Shahnaz Malik, who handled HR and administration. And Mr. Cameron Sheikh, the operations director. From day one, I worked like I owned the place. Stayed late, came in early, volunteered for extra projects. Within 6 months, I'd helped secure 3 major international clients from Europe. My strategies were working. Sales were increasing. In July 2018, I got my first promotion, marketing manager. My salary jumped to 70,000. I was ecstatic. This was it. My hard work was paying off. Mr. Tariq called me into his office that day. "Hira, you're exceptional. In 6 months, you've done what some people can't do in years. We see big things in your future here." I believed him. I believed in the company. I believed I'd found my professional home. I had no idea I was building an empire for people who'd eventually throw me away without a second thought. From July 2018 to December 2019, I was unstoppable. I lived and breathed Meridian Textiles. I wasn't just an employee, I was invested, emotionally, professionally, completely. I redesigned their entire marketing strategy, created their first comprehensive digital presence, built relationships with international buyers, attended trade shows in Dubai, Istanbul, and Bangladesh representing the company. By March 2019, I was promoted again, senior marketing manager. Salary, 120,000 rupees. I was 24 years old, earning more than most people twice my age. But more than the money, it was the recognition. Mr. Tariq would introduce me to clients as the backbone of our marketing division. Mrs. Shahnaz would tell people I was like a daughter to them. Mr. Cameron would joke that I worked harder than all the senior staff combined. I felt valued, appreciated, important. In September 2019, the company landed its biggest contract ever. A 5-year deal with a major European retail chain worth over $50 million. And it was primarily because of my pitch, my strategy, my relationships. Mr. Tariq was ecstatic. "Hira, you've changed this company's trajectory. We're going to reward you properly." In October 2019, I became marketing director. At 24 years old, youngest director in the company's history, my salary jumped to 200,000 rupees plus bonuses. I was living my dream. I'd bought my own car in November. A Honda City, nothing fancy, but it was mine. I was supporting my parents financially. I was the success story everyone talked about. But success has a way of making people jealous. And in corporate Pakistan, jealousy is deadly. It started subtly in January 2020. Small things I initially dismissed as paranoia. My ideas in meetings were suddenly being questioned more aggressively. My decisions were being second-guessed. Credit for my work was mysteriously going to other departments. I noticed Mrs. Shahnaz had become cold. Where she used to greet me warmly, now she barely acknowledged me. When I'd ask if everything was okay, she'd give vague responses. Mr. Cameron, who'd always been supportive, started making passive-aggressive comments. Some people think a few successes make them irreplaceable. Young people these days have no concept of company loyalty. But Mr. Tariq seemed the same. Supportive, encouraging, So I convinced myself everything was fine, just workplace dynamics. Then on February 20th, 2020, I discovered something that changed everything. I was working late, around 9 p.m. Most people had left. I needed to print a document from Mr. Tarek's office printer since mine had jammed. His office door was slightly open. The computer was on, and on the screen was an email chain about me. I shouldn't have looked, but I did, and what I saw made my blood run cold. It was an email from Mr. Tarek to Mrs. Shahnaz and Mr. Cameron, dated February 15th, 2020. Hira has become too confident, too ambitious. She's making demands about profit sharing and equity. We need to handle this carefully. She knows too much about our operations and client relationships. We can't fire her immediately or she'll take clients with her. But we need to start planning her exit. Find her replacement quietly. Once someone's trained, we'll create a situation to let her go. I read it 3 times. Each time it felt like a punch to the gut. They were planning to fire me, not because I'd done anything wrong, but because I'd become too valuable, too knowledgeable, too much of a threat. I took pictures of the email with my phone. Then I left the office, sat in my car in the parking lot, and cried. Everything I'd worked for, every sacrifice, every late night, every weekend I'd given up, it meant nothing to them. I was just a tool they'd used and were now planning to discard. Over the next 3 weeks from February 21st to March 15th, 2020, I watched them carefully. Now that I knew their plan, I could see it everywhere. They'd hired a new marketing manager on March 1st, Sana, 28 years old, experienced. They claimed it was to support me since I was overworked. But I knew the truth. She was my replacement being trained. I watched as they systematically gave Sana access to everything. Client contacts, strategy documents, vendor relationships, everything I'd built over 2 years. Meanwhile, they started undermining me in meetings. On March 10th, during a client presentation, Mr. Cameron openly contradicted my strategy in front of the client. On March 12th, Mrs. Shahnaz sent an email to the team questioning my expense reports, implying financial irregularity. They were building a case, creating a paper trail, setting up justification for firing me. I could have confronted them, could have quit, but I was smarter than that. If they wanted to play games, I'd play too, but I'd play to win. I started documenting everything, every client relationship I'd built, every strategy I'd created, every success I'd achieved. I backed up all my work files to personal drives. Saved every email showing my contributions. I also did something else, something they'd never expect. I started reaching out to competitors, quietly, carefully, letting them know I might be available soon. On March 18th, 2020, I got a response that changed everything. It was from Mr. Ajar Rahman, CEO of Crescent Exports, one of Meridian's biggest competitors. Hira, we've been watching your work from afar. If you're interested in exploring opportunities, let's talk, confidentially. We met on March 22nd at a cafe in Clifton. He was direct. We want to expand into international markets. We need someone with your expertise and connections. Name your price. I'm not just looking for a job, I told him. I want equity, a real stake in the company. He smiled. We can work with that. On April 2nd, 2020, it happened. I was called into a meeting with Mr. Tarek, Mrs. Shahnaz, and Mr. Cameron. HR was present. I knew what was coming. Hira, we need to talk about your future with the company, Mr. Tarek began, his voice artificially sympathetic. Of course, I said calmly. Over the past few months, we've noticed some concerning patterns, attitude issues, insubordination, unauthorized expense claims. I wanted to laugh. Attitude issues. After 2 years of exemplary service, but I stayed quiet. Mrs. Shahnaz continued. We've also received complaints from team members about your management style, creating a hostile work environment. Complete lies, but they had HR documentation to back it up. Fabricated complaints, doctored records. Given these issues, Mr. Tarek concluded, we've decided to terminate your employment effective immediately. You'll receive 1 month's severance as per contract. Please clear your desk and leave the premises today. I looked at them, these people I'd trusted, who'd called me family, who'd promised me a future, now looking at me with cold, corporate indifference. Can I ask why you're really doing this? I said quietly. We just explained. No, the real reason. Because we both know this has nothing to do with my performance. Mr. Tarek's expression hardened. Hira, don't make this difficult. You're young, you'll find another job, move on. Without recommendation letters, without proper notice, after everything I've done for this company. Consider yourself lucky we're giving you severance, Mrs. Shahnaz said coldly. Now please leave. I stood up. You're making a mistake. Is that a threat? Mr. Cameron asked. No, just a fact. You'll realize it soon enough. Security escorted me to my desk, watched as I packed my personal items into a box, walked me out of the building like a criminal. After 2 years of loyalty, this is how it ended. I sat in my car, holding that cardboard box, and smiled, because they had no idea what was coming. That same afternoon, April 2nd, 2020, I called Azure Rahman. I'm ready, let's talk details. We met the next day, April 3rd. He made an offer I couldn't refuse, marketing director at Crescent Exports. 300,000 rupees monthly salary, plus 5% equity in the company to vest over 3 years. But there was more. Hira, I've been thinking, you know Meridian's operations inside out. You have their client contacts, their strategies. We could do more than just hire you. We could absorb their market share. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we don't just compete with them, we destroy them. Legally, ethically, but completely. I should have felt guilty, should have felt conflicted, but I didn't. They destroyed me without hesitation. Now it was my turn. I'm in, but I want more than 5%. If we're doing this, if we're building something that big, I want 10%, and a path to partnership. He extended his hand. Deal. Welcome to Crescent Exports, or should I say, welcome home. Over the next month from April to May 2020, I did something beautiful. I rebuilt everything they'd taken from me, but bigger, better, stronger. I reached out to every client I'd worked with at Meridian. I'm no longer with Meridian Textiles. I've moved to Crescent Exports. I wanted you to know personally because I value our relationship. 90% of them followed me because loyalty wasn't to the company. It was to me, to the person who'd actually done the work, built the relationships, delivered results. By June 2020, Meridian had lost over 60% of its international clients. All to Crescent, all because of me. July 2020 was when Meridian realized what was happening, and they panicked. Mr. Tarek tried calling me. I didn't answer. He sent emails. I didn't respond. Finally, on July 15th, he showed up at Crescent's office. Security called me. There's a Mr. Tarek Malik here to see you. Says it's urgent. Send him to my office. When he walked in, the look on his face was priceless. My office was bigger than his had been. Glass walls overlooking the city, modern furniture, executive suite. Hira, we need to talk. About what, Mr. Tarek? You're stealing our clients. That's unethical, possibly illegal. I'm not stealing anyone. I'm simply continuing to work with people I built relationships with. People who trusted me, not your company. We gave you everything, trained you, promoted you, and then fired me with fabricated allegations. After I built your international division from scratch. So let's not pretend you're the victim here. What do you want? Money, we can rehire you. Better position, better salary. I laughed. You think this is about money? You humiliated me, destroyed my reputation, threw me out like garbage. Now you want to negotiate. Hira, please. We made a mistake. We panicked. You were becoming too powerful and we felt threatened. We handled it wrong. Yes, you did, and now you're paying for it. He stood up, frustrated. You can't do this. We'll fight you, legally. On what grounds? I haven't violated any non-compete clause. I haven't stolen any proprietary information. I simply offered better service to clients who chose to follow me. That's called business, Mr. Tariq. You taught me that. He left, and I knew the real war was just beginning. From August to December 2020, I watched Meridian Textiles crumble, not all at once, slowly, painfully, perfectly. They lost client after client. Their revenue dropped by 70% in 6 months. They had to lay off staff, cut salaries. Mrs. Shahnaz's luxury car was sold. Mr. Cameron took a pay cut. Meanwhile, Crescent Exports was thriving. We doubled our international contracts, expanded operations, hired 50 new employees. I was promoted to Vice President of International Business in October 2020. By December, industry insiders were calling me the woman who destroyed Meridian Textiles. Some saw me as ruthless. Others saw me as brilliant. I didn't care about either label. I cared about justice. About showing them that the person they discarded was actually the foundation their entire success was built on. And without me, they were nothing. On December 20th, 2020, I got a call from a bankruptcy lawyer. Ms. Hira, I represent Meridian Textiles. They're filing for bankruptcy protection. As part of their restructuring, they're looking for buyers for the company. Given your history and your success at Crescent, would you be interested? I smiled. Tell me more. January 2021. Less than a year after they'd fired me, I walked back into Meridian Textiles, not as an employee, as a potential buyer. The offices looked different, emptier, sadder. Half the desks were vacant, the energy was dead. This place that had once buzzed with activity was now a ghost town. Mr. Tariq was waiting in the conference room. He looked like he'd aged 10 years. Gray hair, tired eyes, defeated posture. "Thank you for coming," he said quietly. "Let's talk business," I replied. "I've reviewed the financials. The company is worth approximately 40 million rupees at current valuation. Given the debt and liabilities, I'm prepared to offer 30 million. Cash, full acquisition. That's less than what we've invested over the years. That's what it's worth now. Take it or leave it. There won't be other offers." Mrs. Shahnaz was there too. She looked at me with something between hatred and desperation. "You planned this, all of it, from the moment we fired you." "No," I said honestly. "When you fired me, I was devastated. Broken, you did that. I just rebuilt myself, and your poor decisions destroyed you. I'm simply here to buy what's left." Mr. Cameron spoke up. "If we agree, what happens to us, the current management?" "You'll be retained for transition period, 3 months. After that, your positions will be eliminated. I have my own management team." "So you're firing us?" "I'm completing a business transaction. Your employment ends as part of restructuring. It's nothing personal, just business. You taught me that, remember?" The silence was heavy. Finally, Mr. Tariq nodded. "We accept. When can we finalize?" "Papers will be ready by February 1st. Until then, business as usual." I stood up to leave. Mrs. Shahnaz called out, "Hira, wait, I need to say something." I turned. She had tears in her eyes. "We were wrong. What we did to you is wrong, and this is our karma." "Yes," I said simply, "it is." February 15th, 2021. Exactly 3 years after I'd started at Meridian as a junior executive, I walked in as the owner. The acquisition was complete. The company was mine. I called an all-staff meeting at 10 a.m. The remaining employees gathered nervously. They knew change was coming. "Good morning. As you know, I'm Hira Ahmed. 3 years ago, I worked here as a junior marketing executive, then as manager, senior manager, and director. 10 months ago, I was fired. Today, I own this company." The room was completely silent. "I'm not here for revenge. I'm here to rebuild. This company has potential. It has history. It has a reputation, damaged as it is, and I intend to restore it." I outlined my vision: new management structure, new strategies, investment in technology and people, a fresh start. For those wondering about job security, let me be clear. If you're good at your job, if you're honest, if you work hard, you have a future here. If you're not, you don't. That's the only criteria. After the meeting, I went to the owner's office. The one that had been Mr. Tariq's. Now it was mine. I sat in that chair, looked around at that view, and felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace, not satisfaction, not revenge, just peace. Because I'd proven something to myself, that I could be destroyed and rebuild, that I could lose everything and gain it back, that I was strong enough to survive betrayal and turn it into triumph. Over the next year, from February 2021 to February 2022, I transformed Meridian Textiles completely. Changed the name to Meridian International, rebranded, restructured, rebuilt. We rehired many of the talented people who'd been laid off, brought in new blood, created a culture based on merit, transparency, and respect, everything the old management hadn't been. By June 2021, we'd secured new international contracts. By September, we'd returned to profitability. By December, we'd exceeded our previous peak performance. I made sure everyone knew. Industry publications ran features. From fired employee to company owner, the Hira Ahmed story. Business schools wanted me to speak about entrepreneurship and resilience. The company that had destroyed me was now my greatest success story, and everyone in the industry knew it. Mr. Tariq reached out once during this period, in August 2021. Hira, I've been following what you've done with Meridian. It's incredible. You've accomplished what we never could. Thank you. I wanted to apologize, properly. What we did was wrong, cruel. We were threatened by your talent instead of nurturing it. We deserve what happened. Yes, you did. For what it's worth, I'm proud of you, of what you've become. I felt nothing when he said that. No validation, no anger, nothing, because his opinion didn't matter anymore. It never really had. Take care of yourself, Mr. Tariq. You too, Hira, and congratulations, you won. After I hung up, I thought about his words. You won! But this wasn't about winning or losing. It was about surviving, about refusing to let betrayal define me, about taking pain and turning it into power. It's now November 2024, almost 5 years since I started at Meridian as a junior executive, 4 years since they fired me, 3 years since I bought the company. Meridian International is now one of Pakistan's top 10 textile exporters. We have contracts in 30 countries. We employ over 300 people. Last year's revenue was 500 million rupees, and I own 51% of it. At 29 years old, I'm one of the youngest female CEOs in Pakistan's textile sector. I've been featured in Forbes Pakistan, been invited to speak at international business conferences, become a role model for young professionals, especially women. But more than the success, more than the recognition, what matters most is the lesson I learned. That your worth isn't determined by how one company treats you. That betrayal, as painful as it is, can be the catalyst for transformation. That sometimes losing everything is the only way to discover what you're truly capable of. I still drive past the spot where I sat in my car on April 2nd, 2020, holding that cardboard box, crying after being fired. Sometimes I stop there, look at that parking space, remember that girl who thought her world had ended. And I want to tell her, this isn't the end. It's the beginning. The best is yet to come. They tried to break you, but they actually freed you. To build something bigger, better, yours. People ask me if I feel guilty, if I think I went too far, if destroying Meridian Textiles was excessive. My answer is always the same. I didn't destroy Meridian. They destroyed themselves, their arrogance, their cruelty, their short-sightedness. They thought they could use people and discard them without consequences. They were wrong. I learned that loyalty is earned, not owed. That companies aren't families, no matter what they claim. That the only person you can truly count on is yourself. I learned that betrayal isn't the end. It's information. It shows you who people really are, what they're capable of, and it gives you the choice of how to respond. I learned that revenge isn't about destruction. It's about building something so successful that their betrayal becomes irrelevant, so complete that you don't need their validation, so powerful that they can't hurt you anymore. Most importantly, I learned that being fired isn't failure. It's redirection. Sometimes you need to be pushed out of somewhere you've outgrown, somewhere that's holding you back, somewhere that will never appreciate you. They kicked me out with nothing. They thought I'd struggle, fail, disappear, that I'd be a cautionary tale about what happens when you're too ambitious, too confident, too much. Instead, I came back as their boss, not to gloat, not to punish, but to prove a point. That talent doesn't disappear when you fire it. It just moves somewhere else. And if you're not careful, it comes back stronger. To everyone who's been fired unfairly. To everyone who's been betrayed by companies they trusted. To everyone who's been told they're too much, too ambitious, too confident. You're not too much, you're exactly enough. The right people will see that. The right opportunities will come. And the wrong ones, they'll regret losing you. Don't let betrayal break you. Let it build you. Take that pain, that anger, that humiliation, and turn it into fuel. Prove them wrong, not by talking, by succeeding so completely that their betrayal becomes the best thing that ever happened to you. They kicked me out with nothing, thinking I was nothing. They returned to find me as everything. That's not revenge. That's resurrection. That's transformation. That's taking back your power and using it to build something they could never destroy. They thought they were firing an employee. They were actually creating their future boss. And that's the sweetest victory of all.